Hello and welcome to the Mix Minus special on Star Trek: Lower Decks. I believe is that actually how it is written?
You know what I was calling it?
Decks? What?
I was calling it Below Deck for a couple of weeks.
It is. It's actually it's called Below Deck. It's a Star Trek theory series about how private citizens book the captain's yacht and the people that attend to it, and all the shit that they have to go through for it. I'm sure. Have you ever watched Below Decks?
I have. I think that's why I got so confused, because I've been an avid Below Decks, not the recent couple of seasons, but until then, I was like an avid Below Deck fan.
Well, there you go. It was an easy mistake to make. Now, I know you might be asking yourself, dear video watcher, hey, what's going on here? Who are these guys and what the hell are they talking about? Well, we do a normal podcast. Well, I don't know. We do a podcast called Mix Minus, which you can hear every Saturday night streamed over at pride48.com. Also, you can find us on iTunes, Mix Minus, or at our website, mixminuspodcast.com. But since we decided to talk about Lower Decks for the 10-episode run, this first inaugural season of it, we decided we would put this out as a little extra, for that. So if at any point you feel the need or the desire to, make sure you head over and check out our podcast, Mix Minus. There, did I say it enough? Did I say Mix Minus enough?
It's at mixminuspodcast.com.
Right. But here today we want to talk about Star Trek: Lower Decks. I really hope that is the title, because I've said that twice. Let me go over here to the CBS page and see that. Adam, what exactly were you expecting when you tuned in to Star Trek Lower Decks?
Well,
Star Trek: Lower Decks.
I'll tell you. So first of all, I was expecting a cartoon. So,
yes.
I wasn't disappointed there. It was a cartoon.
Yes.
I also was expecting, I believe that the folks who did this or produced this or were involved with this were also involved in another cartoon that was very, I don't know how to describe it, but I just want to say like Adult Swim sort of feel, like.
Yeah, like Rick and Morty.
Right. That was it. It was Rick and Morty. It was exactly Rick and Morty. It was.
And in fact, yes, the showrunner of this particular show was a writer on Rick and Morty, yes.
So, I thought, we'll see how I like this, because I figured it was going to be a little bit more, I don't know. I don't have a term for it, but Rick and Morty-ish than Star Trek-ish.
Okay, but I mean, you're saying things that, we all knew it was going to be an animated show, whatever. I guess, were you expecting like a serious show? You were expecting to be a comedy? Yes.
Yes, I was expecting it to be a comedy, and I did watch the trailer when it came out, and I knew that it focused on the grunts down in the lower decks or whatever, and
the grunts on the lower decks,
kind of making fun of the officers on the bridge, we'll say.
Okay. Well, the show starts by introducing us to the crew of the USS Cerritos, which is a starship vessel that specializes in second contact. These are the guys that come in after the big first name ships like the Enterprise or the Ketos go in and make first contact and do all the heroic things. These are the guys that come in later and make sure all the paperwork is done correctly and serve a very vital function in Starfleet. The crew is taking on some new recruits. That is where we meet one of our newbies, which is Ensign Tindy. She is a green alien. I don't know the race. They haven't told us yet, but she's a green alien, a brand new medical officer in training on the ship. And she is introduced to Ensign Boimler, who is her liaison to give her the what is it?
He's going to give her a tour of the ship and let her know what her responsibilities are going to be and introduce her to everyone.
Like her onboarding coach or whatever, right?
It's kind of like when you go to college for the first time and you go to the orientation or whatever, and there's someone that like walks, takes small groups around the campus and tells you stuff. That's what you can do. He's also the one before, and I don't know if you were going to say this, so I won't, but before she gets on the ship, there's a whole scene, and apparently Boimler is really keen on moving up the ranks and becoming captain, and so he's actually doing a captain's log in like some broom closet or something.
Yes, he is pretending to be the captain. Yes, but that's that we can talk about that. Let me get through the episode recap here. Basically, we meet Ensign Boimler and his cohort Beckett Mariner. Ensign Mariner, who they're both in the command track. As I said before, Tendi is in the medical track, and then the final fourth member that makes up going to be the core group that we're going to be focused on going forward is Ensign Rutherford, who is in engineering. He is a engineer who has recently, either through accident or choice, has decided to become part cyborg. So he has a Vulcan cyborg piece on his head that controls his eye and part of his wiring, or his brain wiring, that we're told. So those are your four main characters of the show. Adam, what did you think of just the core cast? Those are going to be the people that we're going to be focusing on for the next 10 episodes. What did you think of that cast?
I'm still warming up to the whole comedy idea, I'm going to tell you. And also, the whole bit where she, Mariner, I believe is her name.
Yes, Ensign Mariner.
She actually cuts his leg with a bat lift, or however you say that. And his leg actually like splits open. And I'm like, oh God, it's going to be one of those where like, they're going to do like crazy shit. You know, it's going to be like,
they are.
I don't know.
But I think that was cool. It's like they went there, right? It's just like, yeah, it's the 24th century. Okay, you slice your leg open. No problem. We've got these things that'll fix that. No problem. Big deal. No big deal.
I do like, I have to admit, like the whole cyborg thing. And he was like, well, it's still not working quite right. And like he kept having little glitches and stuff like that. I really liked that a lot. I thought that was really funny because you never think, I think the whole thing about this show is going to be, it's stuff that you didn't really ever think about, but then it makes sense. Like I never even thought about Second Contact. Like that never even crossed my mind. I was like, oh yeah, probably there was somebody who went.
Yeah. There's thousands of officers, there's thousands of people in Star Trek. In Starfleet, they can't all be Kirks and Spocks and Rikers and Picards, right? There's got to be some people that do the actual work. I cannot do, so this show is going to take its focus on the non-bridge crew. These are the ensigns that are down, running in the bowels of the ship. There's a funny little sight gag where Boimler is pointing out the map of the ship, of the Cerritos. He's like going, oh, over here we have sleeping quarters, then we have ops, and no more ops over here, some more ops over here. And if you've ever looked at a blueprint of a Starfleet vessel, there is a whole lot of ops rooms on that thing, and no restrooms listed anywhere at all. So these are the below decks people that we're going to be going through this.
They apparently don't pee on starships. Well, however, they did when they were.
I would like to think that in the 24th century it's just transported out somewhere. It's like you just hit a button and they just transport your pee out of your bladder and just out into space.
You just say, "Excuse me, I'm gonna relieve myself," and you just hit a button on your little comm badge or something.
Right. Yeah.
Now, one thing they did do, and this was discussed in a podcast that I listened to, and there was discussion about where they live is like behind the nacelles or whatever.
It is a definite nod to cruise ship employees that sleep in the bowels of the ship and what looks like hallways in these tiny little windowless rooms. But yes, they're kind of tucked in the back part of the ship. Yeah, in a hallway.
Yeah. And they go there on their little tour, and some guy is like had just taken a shower, and so he's coming out like with the towel wrapped around. Anyway, that was funny. But
well, our first real stop on the tour of the ship that Mariner kind of takes over the tour and takes Tendi to the holodeck, where we get to see anything that you could possibly see. So Mariner conjures up a beach in Hawaii. Tendi conjures up some religious place on her homeworld that she's never seen. I didn't catch the name of that. Sorry about that. And of course, Boimler conjures up
the bridge.
No, the warp core.
No, the warp core. Damn it.
It was the warp core. He was really. So you kind of get the idea here that Mariner is the kind of fly by the seat of her pants, damn the regulations, kind of, really go get them, kind of screw the regulations, kind of your Ensign Rowe kind of a person there. And Boimler, of course, is very much by the book. He's like, he's your human data, right? He's very much wants to go by regulations, is very uncomfortable doing anything outside of regulations. What's the greatest thing in the world? That's the bridge, the warp core. These are the greatest things in the world. Why would I want to go on a holodeck and, have some naked gym or whatever? It's, I would want to go to the warp core.
We also learned that she's apparently, Mariner, that is, this is not her first time on a ship.
Correct.
And this is not her first ship. So she was on another ship and apparently did something wrong, pissed somebody off. I don't know. And she was thrown off that ship. And then this was like a second assignment or something. So,
well, we find out later that she's been on 5 ships. It's 5 previous ships. Oh, this is her 5th ship. I can't talk. This is her 5th ship that she's been on. But yeah, so we go along, they get the tour of the ship, and then they get their first assignment, which of course they're orbiting this planet whose name I forget. I'll put it in somewhere down here. And they're establishing second contact. So they're going to set up some kind of subspace array, some kind of techno-talk thing, communications array that they're going to do. And so our intrepid adventurers, the Mariner and Boimler, are down on the planet actually trying to set up this communications array. And Mariner sneaks off, and the captain had previously asked Boimler to track her because she wants him to find her breaking some kind of regulation so that she can discipline her.
yes.
Yes. So she goes off. She finds these 2 little aliens. Well, she's doing something with 2 little aliens when Boimler happens across her and accuses her of selling technology. And it turns out she's just giving farm equipment to these farmers. And it turns out that she knew about them because she was on the ship that made the first contact with the planet before she got removed from, got kicked off that ship and got put on the Cerritos. So
he thought she was selling weapons.
Yes.
And so he was like,
Right.
You can't sell weapon. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think she technically wasn't supposed to be selling and or giving farm equipment either.
Right. Well, I think the exchange showed that she is way more familiar with regulations than he is, and that the point was that she definitely knew what she was doing. She was aware of the fact that she was breaking regulations, but she was doing it. And her explanation for it is that, look, why should I have to wait? Why should these guys have to wait for all the bureaucracy in Starfleet to realize that they need help? They need help right now, and I can give them some farm equipment, a hoe and a shovel, which is really easy for me to give to them. Meanwhile, back up on the ship, Ensign Tendi is on a date with some other unknown ensign. We don't know who she is. She's given a name, but she's not a main character, so I really didn't write it down or commit it to memory. But during this date, early in this date, it turns out that the first officer who had been down on the planet earlier and had gotten bitten by a bug now has turned into a zombie. He's turned into a full-on weird flesh-eating zombie kind of a guy infecting other people around the ship right in the middle of their date.
I'm sure there's an episode that matches this closer, but there's an episode of Next Generation where they all turn into like devolved versions of themselves. Like one of them's a spider and one of them's like Neanderthal or however you say that. And I love that episode, but a lot of people hate that episode. This reminded me a lot of that, though. I mean, they didn't turn into creatures, but they were all,
Yeah, just basically mindless eating. They're basically zombies. Starfleet zombies going around puking on each other and biting each other. And this is when our Ensign Tendi, our new medical person, shows up in medical for her assignment and is immediately runs into chaos and is put to work tending for these people that are infected with this new.
I believe she was manually beating the heart.
The doctor who's got a name, the main doctor who is one of the senior officers, Dr. Tiana. So the main doctor of the ship, which is a Cetacean named Tiana, hands her the human heart of someone who is dying on the table and instructs her to beat the heart and to not pass out. So that's where we leave Ensign Tendi. As we go back to the date between Rutherford and his date, they're now just basically talking normal date kind of talk while all of this chaos ensues around them, and they're shooting phasers at each other and doing all these really urgent things, and then immediately talking about their favorite bands and their favorite activities and what part of the ships they're on and the kind of things that they like to do. Just, typical first date kind of a talk there. They shoot their way through a whole bunch of zombies and go to the turbo lift to get away, and the turbo lift door won't quite open, but they manage to get inside, and then Ensign No Name Lady kisses Rutherford, and he's completely uninterested because he's more concerned as to why the door didn't open in a red alert situation.
Yeah. So it very similar to Boimler, who we, learned more about earlier in the episode, where, he's really concerned with, knowing everything about the ship and procedures and all that, and he completely lost interest when he found out, she didn't really care about that. She just wanted to make out, basically.
So, of course, it all ends up with the goo that was on Boimler earlier being the actual thing that will reverse all the zombies folks and save the day. The doctor smells it on him and basically says, "This slime is very important. This ensign is worthless, but this slime is important. Get him to sickbay." She formalizes a cure for the entire crew, and of course, just like any good Star Trek episode, everyone is magically fixed. The story is neatly tied up at the end. We just didn't actually see it happen. We're just like, we're in for the backseat view of this particular ship.
I believe she formulated, not formalized, but also she very typical of Star Trek. She was able to put the cure somehow into the air system, and it got
air system,
sprayed out, aerosolized or whatever the word is.
Aerosol, yeah, exactly. In the 24th century, aerosols are very important. I don't think you can't overstate just how important aerosols are in the 24th century. One of the things I really liked about this show is the fact that we are concentrating on non-main characters. And when I was listening to an interview that Wil Wheaton had done with the art director and the showrunner of the show, they had pointed out that they actually write each episode so that there is a main storyline going on, that the bridge crew is taking place, is actually engaging in. There is if it were a regular Star Trek episode, it would be the main thing that you were seeing on screen, but Lower Decks concentrates on the other stories that are happening around that main event that's happening. So the really big ship-threatening crisis that happens every week is still happening, but it's not like these guys are intimately involved in what's happening. They're still just kind of living their lives and going around. And I can imagine, after going through 50 or 60 of those things, you kind of realize, they'll fix it. I'll be fine. I'll be doing my stuff over here. Somebody up there will fix it, and we'll move on with our lives.
Well, also, you see I did notice, you do have that main story, but it's more about how the Lower Decks folks, what they're doing during that story and that sort of thing. But the other thing is, Star Trek, you don't normally have a sense of anyone being jealous of or having any. Yeah. It's all very happy. Everyone loves each other and whatever. But these Lower Decks people are always like, oh, those bridge people, all those first off, they're so full of themselves and, all this kind of stuff. So you see things that like you never see, and they.
And I think you can draw a lot of analogies between that and the modern workplace, right? It's like you may or may not, depending on the size of the company you work for, you may or may not see the CEO and the upper executive leadership team or whatever. You may not see them on a day-to-day basis. You just see them like in weird communications or like on some kind of videoed all-hand meetings or up on stage when we used to be able to be in the same room with everyone. Those are not your peers, right? Those are your bosses, right? So you can think really weird things about it. You can think that they're great. You can think that they're idiots. You can think whatever, but you're not really involved in their day-to-day life. So you don't see all the things that go into making those decisions. When you watch Star Trek, Picard and Riker, those and the whole bridge crew, those are the bosses, right? And we, as the viewer, are kind of in their circle. We understand what they're doing because we see them doing it. We're not their employees that are, somewhere back that are getting yelled at, being like, "Hey, go and plug that thing in and go do this other thing," right? So it's a nice paradigm shift where you're actually like, okay, I'm now kind of with these people on the lower deck. So I'm experiencing as if I were, a fellow cast, crew member on this ship. And the first officer and the whole bridge crew aren't necessarily going to be my peers. They're going to be my bosses. And I can be friendly to them. Some of them may be nice. Some of them may be jerks. But that is the kind of interaction that we have with them, which is more employee kind of manager boss than peer. Does that make any sense? Or did I go too far on that?
No, it makes complete sense. But I think it's going to be really interesting. One thing you didn't mention in the recap is we find out that Mariner is actually the daughter of the captain.
Well, I didn't mention that because that's the last thing we find. That's the twist at the end, is we find out the reason that the captain has been so invested in trying to get Mariner in trouble is that it's her daughter. She's not scared of the captain. She treats the captain with, the way that a daughter would treat her mother, right? It's like, stupid mom, or it doesn't actually say the word mom. So it's kind of a little surprise at the end that why the captain has such a boner against Mariner. Turns out that it's her daughter. And also turns out that her husband is an admiral. So you have, he has the ability to reassign her to different ships and whatnot. So,
Yeah, and he hangs up on the captain when
well,
she
he tries
calls.
to hang up.
Yeah.
But yes. But yeah, no, I think it's, I think overall I'm very hopeful about the series. I really liked it a lot. I know that people online, get into the, not all people online, but there's like this very minority, vocal minority of people that really like the Star Trek, the original series, and any deviation from that whatsoever is immediately a thing to hate and to poo-poo upon. And then I feel like the next generation that came up, no pun intended, like Star Trek Next Generation, and anything that's not that is something that is poo-pooed upon. Why Deep Space Nine and Voyager kind of so closely tracked to that. But when you had something that veered away from that, i.e. Enterprise, suddenly it was a horrible series that everyone hated, even though I kind of liked it. So just to get all my cards on the table, I've liked all the Star Trek series that have been out there, including Discovery, which I love, and including Enterprise, which I also love. So I really like this show. I'm really looking forward to next week.
So anyone who's new to me who doesn't watch Mix Minus or listen to watch Mix Minus, listen to Mix Minus.
You can listen to it. You can't watch it.
You don't know about me. I will say that my dad and I, when I was growing up, used to watch the original series together. So that's the one night a week I got to stay up late was the original series. And I also love Next Generation. I don't like Deep Space Nine, mainly because they stayed in one place too much for me. I really liked the going to a different place every week and, all that kind of stuff. So I really didn't, the Deep Space Nine stuff didn't really, but all the other ones I've loved, including the CBS
In fairness, Deep Space Nine did travel a lot, but they didn't have their own ship until like the fourth season. So yeah.
So I didn't, but yeah, for this one, I'll say I enjoyed the first episode. It is going to take me a little bit to get used to the comedy because you don't usually see Star Trek as a comedy. But I did really enjoy it. So I'm also looking forward to seeing, what they do and also kind of what comes of this Mariner being the daughter of the captain. And I'm sure that's going to play a big role in this season. So.
Yeah. Well, I am looking forward to it. We've got 10 episodes, 9 now. So if you haven't seen Star Trek: Lower Decks, then head over to CBS All Access. Make sure to check it out. And then come back here next week and we'll talk about episode number 2. And if you just can't live your entire week without getting more of us, then you can always go over to mixminuspodcast.com. Check out our regular podcast, Mix Minus.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Well, then until next week, when I hopefully will not be wearing these big cans. I didn't even mention that, but I've had my podcasting cans on here instead of my nice earbuds because I'm missing a cable. Oh, anyway, it's a long story. You don't want to know about it. You know what? We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.